Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Two Peas in a Podcast, episode 3, with our beautiful host, me, Katie Oman. Hi.
And your other host, me, Jessica. Hi.
We're here as ever, and we are prepped as much as we can be. But we wanted today's conversation to be kind of loose, a bit more flowy, because we're diving in somewhere deep today, aren't we, Jane?
Yeah, we're going into relationships. And so we are going to basically just talk about some of our experiences and what we find to be a healthy relationship versus a not healthy relationship. So should be fun, should be interesting.
Fun.
Yes, fun. I've been thinking about this all week and I'm like, well, here we are. So let's go ahead and just jump and let's do it.
Okay, so I wanted to kick it off because Jess is like, phew. I wanted to kick it off because I one of my biggest realizations about my love life I was about 35, 36, so not that long ago. I mean, I'm 44 this year, as you know, so it wasn't that long ago. And it hit me like a train because I used to be that woman that was like, why can't I find a nice guy? Where are all the nice guys? Why do I keep picking all these men? What's wrong with me? I was in that real victim mindset. And then it suddenly hit me one day of like, oh, they're my mirror. Everyone's reflecting back at me how I feel about myself. And that's where I started on the self-love train, you know? So I don't know. I think a lot of people that don't have good relationships, whatever that looks like, in my opinion now, I think you have to start with, how do you feel about yourself?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that is extremely accurate. I think that self-reflection is important in all aspects of your life. And I found that, yes, men will mirror back to me some of my insecurities and my worst fears in regards to myself. Like, for example, abandonment, right? Being behind, not being worthy, not feeling like I'm appreciated or good enough or seen in a connection. And I do find that I will find men that mirror that back. Um, so yeah, I feel like that's something that has happened. Now, me and you with our connection, I have kind of been the one that has been more resound to maybe I'm just not meant to meet anybody. I know that like some people look at that as like a lack of positivity. Like, oh, well, you're not being positive. You should always hold out hope. You might meet somebody. But I'm a very realistic person to a certain extent. And I just find that sometimes it's easier to just accept that maybe you're not meant to be with somebody. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not everybody is meant to have a relationship, and life can still be fulfilling without one. But I used to, I don't know if I've ever been that type of person that was like, well, why can't I have one? Why can't I have one? But there have definitely been moments, I think, where I've been like, well, what's going on with me? But I already know what's going on with me. So it's like, it's like I already know the issues I need to work on. So that could be it. But let's pace ourselves here with this conversation.
No, I know, absolutely, absolutely. It's funny, isn't it? I was talking to my mum about this the other week, and I said, when I was younger, I grew up with Disney and American sitcoms and pop songs, and like my whole vibe was like, oh, I should have a boyfriend. Like that was where my sense of worth came from, which I know, right? I know that now is like not a great mindset to hold, but at the time, I really believed that I needed to have a boyfriend. And so I think a lot of relationships, from my experience, is that there is almost a feeling of like, not a desperation, but like you're not necessarily fulfilled and complete in your life unless you find somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and I think that that's actually something that is completely normal to feel that way, especially when society tells us that we should have a relationship, especially when we have parents that they're married. I feel like that's kind of normal. Like my parents, for example, were married for like 35 years.
Mm.
I never was in the situation of being in the house with like a single parent and not seeing, relationship. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, that's something that I think is it's normal to feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a real learning curve. And yet I saw this week that actually, and it's something that's it's pretty more to the fore, I think, is that women don't necessarily need a man anymore. If they were honest about it, I think men find it hard to be single now than women in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that we're living in a time where women have just as much, if not more, opportunity than men.
Mm.
And back in the day, I think that connections, marriage, it was an act of convenience, not just
Yeah,
for men, but for men also, because, men having somebody to take care of the house, do the laundry, take care of the kids, it's these gender roles that we've assigned to each other
yeah,
throughout time. Um, and so, yeah, I think that there's that there. But now it's like, if I don't need to get into a relationship for convenience, right? Like I don't need somebody to, you know, do my laundry and take care of me because I am a man that is self-sufficient and I can do it on my own, or I don't need a man to pay for my bills because I'm a woman that's self-sufficient. What are we getting in relationships for?
yeah.
And it's love, right? It's
Well, supposedly.
well, that's what I'm saying. It's supposedly it's love, connection, it's loyalty and companionship and all these things that we want to feel with another person. It's somebody to witness our lives with us,
Yeah,
in a sense. And so that's where I think that a lot of issues are, is that when you don't have when you're not offering the traditional things, like I'm not offering you money, I'm not offering you stability, and I'm not offering you this energy of I'm going to take care of you and take care of the house. What are we offering each other? And that's where I think that as an individual, self-reflection is so important, because that's when you can find like where you fall short.
yeah.
How am I showing up in connections? Am I giving that commitment? Am I giving that loyalty, that trust, that communication? Because if not, yeah.
Of course, absolutely. And that's the thing, you and I have both been single for a while now.
Yeah.
And, this is probably the first time in my life where I don't need somebody. I mean, and I say to you all the time, I would like to meet somebody, but I don't need to meet somebody. And that's a very different place to come from. And I say, if I needed to meet someone before now, I would have done. Would it have been the right relationship? Probably not. But I could have fulfilled that insecurity in me, I suppose. Now, what I say is that somebody has to add to my life in the most positive way. They can't take from me, whether that's my time, my peace. I know that relationships are about compromise, but it needs to feel like it's benefiting me. Otherwise, we're both incredibly busy people. We haven't got time for things that are not going to give to us in some way, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's about getting what I give in connections. I find myself, when I'm in a connection, to be very loyal, very committed, very,
Mm,
and I find even with all of the heartbreak that I've went through, I still find myself willing to be vulnerable and open with people. So for me, it's that energy of wanting to get that back. But yeah, I do find myself at a point in my life where I'm not exactly necessarily focused on a relationship.
yeah,
I'm focused on, honestly, myself, a lot of like self growth and self improvement and finding out why I am the way I am, which is a whole thing in itself. I say this to you all the time, and it's because I mean it. Your relationship that you have with yourself is the most important one, and it's the most dynamic one. And I do find that any relationship or connection that you get into is often like a teacher that leads you back to yourself. What do I need to look at within myself, or what do I need to work on?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, you and I both work in an industry where we're dealing with people who have a hard time seeing those things. And you have your readings, your psychic readings, your tarot readings. I've done readings and done coaching as well. And how many times have we listened to people dealing with relationship problems that just can't see the wood for the trees? And it's really, really difficult. We've both had clients who just keep coming back round, hoping that you'll tell them what it is they're wanting to hear about a relationship.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's like, and I understand that. I understand wanting to hear what you want to hear about somebody, but I find that the truth is like a band-aid. You can peel it off gently, trying to avoid the pain, or you can just rip it off and get it over with and then start the healing process.
Mm.
I find that a lot of people they get hurt and then they want to go in their shell.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel it again, and so they don't want to open themselves back up to love. So I find that a lot of people will become hyper independent, and that's something that I try to coach people out of, because I think that if you in your heart want love, if you feel like love is something that's meant to be in your life, nothing and nobody should have the power over you to take that away from you. There should never be somebody who is, you know, that comes into your life and disrupts your heart energy in a way that you're like, nope, I'm never doing that again. I'm never giving that out again. So for me, it's more about healing with my clients, wanting them to see that there's still value in other people, there's still value in themselves, and don't let one bad apple ruin it, basically. Because I've been on that road, where I've had people hurt me and then I'm like, that's it, never again. But as you know about me, I'm like low key a romantic at heart. So I don't know if that's my Cancer Venus that I have, but like deep down inside, yeah, I don't know. Don't know.
But that's the whole point of this, is that it's complicated. Relationships are our biggest teacher in life. And, we like to think that it's all, like a Hollywood rom-com, but it's not. It's messy and it's complicated and it's pain and it's compromise and it's sacrifice and it's all these things. And that's why there's never really an easy answer on it. I know that if you block yourself off from pain in the belief that you're protecting yourself, the problem is that your wall that you've built around your heart doesn't have a filter. So not only are you shielding yourself from pain, you're also shielding yourself from love and joy. And that's what happens, is that people hermit so much in the belief they're protecting themselves, but they stop all the good things coming into their life as well.
Yeah. And, I kind of blame, honestly, like all the fairy tales.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're allowed to say the big D word, but they, the ones that put out all the fairy tales and Cinderella and Snow White and Sleeping Beauty and all that. I kind of blame these things because if you look at these movies, it's like there's a problem and then love is the answer. Love, finding your prince. Like let's use Cinderella, for example. Oh my gosh, I'm, poor and broke and messy, and oh my gosh, he invited me to his ball and now he's seen me and now I'm validated. Now I'm special. It's like Cinderella was always special. Really?
Yeah, but the girl only wanted a night out, a fancy frock, and some shoes.
Yeah.
She didn't go there asking to meet the man. Right? She just wanted to get out of the basement and stop living with her wicked stepmother.
Yeah. But we kind of got off track there when we met, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, as soon as she saw him, she was like, what did I come here for? I don't know. It's just, I feel like these fairy tales kind of betray like finding somebody to be your other half, whether it's a man or a woman. It's like, that's going to complete you. That's going to make everything all better.
Oh, don't even get me started on this one, because I tell you, the one thing that winds me up more than anything else is when people go, he's my twin flame, he completes me, he makes me whole. I'm like, because we both know twin flames are not, it's not a Disney, sorry, I'm not saying that way, whatever. It's not a Disney film. It's not a happily ever after. Twin flames are messy as hell, and we both know that one.
Oh man, are we really going to go down this road?
Yeah, we're going there because it winds me up. I've been in this industry for 15 years, and every time someone says twin flame, my toes curl, my butt clenches. It's not a positive thing.
Okay.
I'm just being real. It's just my truth, okay? I'm straight up saying, I've had the week. So I'm in this mindset today. I'm just like, this is how I feel. This is what's going on. And I'm going to keep it real,
So when it comes to twin flames with me, I'm not exactly sure if I believe in that. I've had my moments, as you know, but I'm not exactly sure. I think that there are soulmates or high-level soulmates, and these people show up in the form of teachers. I don't necessarily believe that anybody is 100% meant to be. Nothing is going to stop this, because people have free will.
Yeah, of course.
And so you can have a strong connection with somebody, but still find all the reasons why it's not going to work. And then that connection just goes apart. We've seen it happen a million times. So I
Excuse me.
think twin flames in particular, the important thing to focus on is not union.
Mm.
It's the lessons, it's the growth through meeting somebody that reflects things back to you in such a powerful way that it changes you on a core level and you learn things about yourself. Now, I have experienced that, not with very many people, but with a few people I've experienced where the situation, I wouldn't exactly give it the honor of saying the relationship, but the situation that I went through with them, it made me look deeply into myself. You know, it shook me to my core in a way of like, okay, I want to fix things or I want to work on things. And I think that that could be that. My biggest issue with the twin flame thing has been the whole two bodies sharing one soul. My
Mm.
soul is my soul. There's not enough room for another person in here. You know what I mean? Like, this is my soul. It's my soul. You have your soul and I have my soul. Right. And maybe
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable if they were like, okay, puzzle, and you have the puzzle and they have a puzzle and together your pieces fit. But to say like we share the same soul, we're the same person, split, just, I don't know. It's,
Well, this is, I agree with you, and that's it's the romanticized view of it, right? It's this thing of like it's the ideal to reach for, and it's finding wholeness and completeness, and it really takes away from the sense of self that this person, whoever they may be, with this very intense relationship, is somehow meant for you and going to complete you. It's like you're complete as you are. You don't need anybody to be your other half.
yeah, I agree. Sorry, the sun is like blinding me
Sorry, you're being lit up like a little angel. It's beautiful.
with a cross right on my forehead. Oh, no, I agree with the whole, there's nobody that can complete you. Now, there are people, like you said, that can come into your life and they can add to the experience. But as far as like completing you, no, I don't know if that's possible.
And of course, then there's like, I mean, I would rather choose a soulmate because that's so, it's much more beautiful. It's much more of a connection. It's much more give and take. The other one that we've talked about a lot over the years is, which is a very thorny subject, and we're not going to mention any names, but we've both experienced karmic relationships, which are just, ooh, they're a lot, right? Oof. So if you want trouble, if you want drama, get yourself into a karmic relationship.
Yeah, relationships are, in my opinion, some of the most healing relationships. If you can look past of the pain, if you
Yes.
past the loss of the actual relationship and you can look at what this relationship has taught me, because what karmic relationships do is teach you how to love yourself.
Absolutely, but it's really hard to see that when you're going through the whirlwind of pain, right? Because good Lord, it can be a lot. It can literally, I mean, talk about a tower moment, it can flip your whole world upside down.
Yes, it can be very toxic and it can, and I feel like karmic relationships can also, in a sense, be your karma,
Yeah.
um, or maybe how you've shown up in relationships in the past. But I do find, yeah, I mean, the biggest lesson with karmics is to choose yourself, to choose
Mm.
yourself enough to be like, okay, this is not right, this is not healthy, this is completely toxic. I need to get myself out of this before it kills me. Because I think that in the karmic relationships, that is the road you're going down. Is like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely. And of course, it's hard to see that. I mean, and for the benefit of, like I say, I'm not going to name names, but you know what I've been through. I know what you've been through, and my karmic relationship was also massively codependent. And so, in that moment of the hindsight and the lesson and the growth, like that was so far from my reality at that moment. I wasn't even in my sphere. I wasn't even in my mind. I was just like completely in the pain. That was my reality with the time that I was in a relationship, as you know.
yeah. And I find that like when you look back on karmic relationships specifically, and when you've grown, there's a part of you now that would have never been attracted to that person.
Oh God, no! I wouldn't let him touch me with a 10-foot barge pole. Not in a million years.
Yeah. And then like for me personally with like some of mine, because I find that a lot of my karmic relationships were actually like way in my past. Like
Mm.
I like anybody that I've kind of connected with in the like recent energy has been just more about just lessons and continued like growth, individual growth. But my karmic relationships, when I look back on those, I'm just like, first of all, why were you even interested in this person? How low were you playing like a game of limbo with your life? How low can we go here? Like how low were you to find that attractive, to find that situation alluring?
Oh, I know, but that's the point, right? I have found, and again, we can only speak from our own past experiences, but karmic relationships have entered my life when I've been very vulnerable, right? I've been at a really low point, and it's almost like you're not logical, cognitive thinking kind of checks out for a while. Because you kind of, again, looking back, you can kind of go, well, why? But obviously, at that point in your life, it was like a crossroads, and you met each other at a point where you were more willing to travel down together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you guys are each other's karma. And
Yeah.
I found too another signal of karmic relationships is that you're in a sense bound to each other,
Mm.
marriage, children, businesses, things that are not so easy for you to separate yourself from.
Yeah.
Because the divine connection or a divine relationship or one that's just normal, let's just say that, um, there's a choice, there's a level of consent there. I'm choosing to be here. I don't really have to be here. I can leave if I want to. I'm choosing to stay. You
Yeah.
know, with karmic connections, I found that it's like, no, I'm bound to you. Like I would leave if I could, but I have to fight my way and dig my way out of this.
Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. The other kind of interesting thing I want to talk to you about relationships is I saw a video years ago. I know that he's a problematic person in some ways now, but it is what it is. And it was a video by Will Smith when he was doing his vlogs. And he said he was talking about his relationship with Jada. Again, I know problematic, but we're kind of leaving that to the side for a minute. And said that she used to say to him, "Why don't you make me happy? Make me happy. Can you make me happy?" And for a while he was trying to fulfill that role for her, real people pleaser, and then realize one day, like, your happiness is your responsibility. My happiness is my responsibility. So why don't you go and figure out what it is that makes you happy, and I'll figure out what makes me happy. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like real relationships, good relationships. Everyone has their baggage. Everyone has their insecurities, but it's finding someone. It's not You're not responsible for somebody else's baggage, but it's so that you can find a way to unpack it together while being responsible for yourself at the same time.
Yeah. And I find that that's been something that it actually hits really close to home for me because that is something that I have seen that I do in relationships, not necessarily like depending on another person for my happiness, but almost like, why aren't you doing more to try to make me happy? Like,
Mm.
aren't you showing up in a way that, you know, would make me happy? And then I always kind of see in hindsight that that's not the other person's responsibility. That is my responsibility. And people can only meet you as far as they can meet themselves. If somebody is being loving, consistent, and honest with you, and you're still not fulfilled, you're still not happy, that's not a them situation, hun. That's a you.
Yeah, and it also can only show up for you as much as they're showing up for themselves.
Yeah.
So if somebody is being loving, respectful, kind, nurturing to themselves, then they're more likely to give it to you. If somebody is in a space where they don't like themselves and they're giving themselves a hard time and being their own worst enemy, why do we think that this person's going to show up for us in a good way? Because it's not going to.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, and it's one of those things where it's like, needing that validation externally, which is something that I know because I've dealt with that with myself in relationships. Like, if this person gives me attention, that means I'm worthy of attention. If this person loves me, then that means I'm worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
Things in life has been to see that on my own, that I'm
Yeah,
worthy, see that on my own, that I am lovable. And it doesn't matter if anybody else sees that or proclaims that or shows up in that way. Like, regardless of how the other person shows up, I'm still lovable,
yeah,
still
yeah.
worthy.
Absolutely. And that's the thing I say, relationships are one of our biggest teachers in life. It's and I know that I believe that life is not linear, so that you're born over here and you die over here and stuff happens in the middle. I believe life is like a cone, ice cream cone. And so the idea is you've come here for specific lessons and growth. And so you'll meet them again and again and again as you go up the cycle. The idea is you're supposed to move through it faster and healthier because you're learning. The problem is that most people don't get that and they just go around the bottom rungs and don't actually ascend, right? So when people go to me, well, I've dealt with this relationship issue before. Why is it come around again? And the frustration, and I know that we've had this conversation. And I go, yeah, but that's the point. That's one of the reasons why you're here. It's going to come around again so that you can show that you've got it, you know?
And I think it's also too about different aspects of that lesson.
Mm.
You know, it's not just the same, it's not the same situation. You're learning a different aspect of it. So say you're learning self-confidence, right? You're learning a different shade or a different variety of the self-confidence that you can embody within yourself with each situation that you go through. So yeah, and I do agree with that, with the cone philosophy, I guess you'd call it. Like, yeah, you know, things come back around to see, have you learned that lesson, or how are you going to move differently this time? How are you going to show up differently this time?
That's when exes can come back. Or maybe not exes, but people that we used to know can pop back into your life when you're like, hey, where are you energetically? Are you still in the same space that you were? And it's like you have a choice at that moment whether you jump back in with them or you're like, oh, hell to the no, 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 I'm out, right?
Yeah. I find that with exes, see him bullshit, like right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like, there we go. Talking about exes, I'm like, I'm allergic.
Drop a whole hot mess. The minute we mention that in the E words, it's like, forget it, it's done.
Hold on a second. I'm like propping my phone up with tarot decks. Okay. Hold on, girl. Give me a moment. Man down. Okay.
This is real world, guys. This is like, we're not over here with some kind of podcasting studio. We are two real women trying our best to talk.
I would love to have like some of the setups that some of these other podcasts. We'll get there for real.
We'll get there. We'll get episode 3.
Okay.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Anyways, back to the exes before everything fell apart. I find some people, because I have clients, you know, that they want their exes back. And so my whole deal with exes is not necessarily that it is a no-go, but there needs to be, I feel like, a certain amount of time that's gone by. I feel like if you know, there's real growth that's needed on both sides.
Yes.
To be real growth that's shown. This needs to be a different person. They need to show up in a way of where you're like, okay, I don't even hardly recognize you. Mm-hmm. You know, because I do believe growth is possible. And I do feel like people can change. And I have had people that I know that they meet people, they break apart, and then they come back together and they have a healthy relationship. It can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. It's making sure that the other person who comes back around again isn't coming with the same reason that you broke up with them in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I feel like a big indicator of that too is, are you in the same place?
Yeah.
Because if you're different, you're going to choose different for yourself, period.
Yeah.
Whether it's, because love is only going to take you so far. And as we've discussed already, when you grow, when you change, sometimes you can have hindsight and you can look back and be like, well, why did I even want that person anyway? So if you're not even really attracted to that situation anymore, there's something in your soul, I feel like, that's telling you, I've changed, this person probably hasn't, or maybe we're just not on the same page anymore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I don't really have the issue of people coming back. I don't know if I traumatize them, I scare them for life. I don't know if they're scared of me, like they're scared of what I'm going to say, because I'm very direct, as you know, with my communication. It just is what it is to me. Like, I'm going to tell you what I feel or what I think, what the truth is. So I don't really know. I've never really dealt with too many exes coming back. There was that one that we're not going to name names. He showed back up, and then I just saw that he was kind of still the same person. Like, yeah, really grown.
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking about. You have to know, because it's only this.
I know who we're talking about. It's fine. Yeah. We won't say no names. It's fine. We don't get ourselves sued over here for slander or libel. It's fine. One thing that struck for me is and again, this is all part of my lessons and my growth. I used to really abandon myself in relationships because I had this thing of like, suddenly they were more important than me. I was one of my trauma responses is I'm a people pleaser to the core. as you know. So, like, for example, I am a highly sensitive empath. I know this about myself. I fought against it for years, but I am. And so I accept now that I cannot watch horror movies. I cannot, because I will have nightmares for months and it really frightened me. Like, don't get me started. That's a whole different conversation. We'll have to talk about phobias at some point because, girl, I got stories for days. But I've dated guys who really like horror, I would put myself in those positions because that's what they wanted. Or I've dated guys that have liked soccer, British football, and I don't like it. I find it really boring. But because they've liked it, I've watched games because that's what they want to do. Well, one time that I went to an art gallery with a partner, they didn't like it. So whereas I would spend a good, well, it depends how big it is, but at least 20, 30 minutes in there, we were in and out within 5 minutes because they didn't want to be in there. And so, like, that's part of the growth for me is like, I will absolutely not abandon myself for anybody else anymore. I'm important too.
Yeah. And I think it's also about finding somebody that is compatible for you versus just finding somebody.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's the space that I was in. It was like somebody was better than nobody.
Yes. And then when you're in that space, well, you're going to get what you pay for, basically. You
There
know?
is nothing worse than being lonely in a room with somebody else.
Oh, I agree.
That's
Absolutely.
the worst.
Absolutely. And I have been in situations, that one in particular, where it was just like I was by myself right when they're right next to me. And that is the loneliest, most empty feeling that you can have.
Yeah.
Because being single, as both of us have, there's like very odd times where we'll tell each other we feel alone. It's
Yeah.
not very often. I mean, we're so busy with their kids and businesses and life, and then I have 100 plants and like everything going on. There's no time to be alone, hun. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
Being in a relationship and feeling alone, oh man.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. And so we both experienced that, so we know very well how that feels. If you're watching this and this resonates, by the way, it's not an easy conversation to have with yourself, but you do have to admit how you feel. It's always, I think, no matter what relationship you're in or what's going on for you, I think you owe it to yourself to be honest with yourself. Because how can you make any changes if you're not being honest?
Yeah, I find that people who are in relationships that they don't want to be in or that they feel alone in, there's something there that's karmic that's keeping them there. So, is it because you feel like you can't support yourself on your own? Is
Mm.
it because you don't want to be with yourself on your own because you don't really like who you are? These are
Yeah.
things to look at the core reason of why am I staying in a situation that is not fulfilling me? Because I
100%.
if you're resonating with this right now, like you're in a relationship and you're like, man, how I feel, I promise you, with enough time, space, and compassion for yourself, you will be more fulfilled than you ever been being single. You can be.
100%. I mean, I've had people where, normally older people, if I tell them that I'm a single parent, I get the sad head tilt. The sad head tilt is this, ah.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have to say, no, I am much happier on my own than I ever was in a relationship. You
Yeah.
know, but it's taken me a while to get there. That didn't happen overnight. You know, it took me to and start living my life and learning who I am and liking the person that I am and being by myself to realize that no, I'm good, I'm fine. But it's a process.
Yeah. And I think that with the single parent thing, it's like sympathy, okay, but not because necessarily being alone, but just because being a single parent is difficult in general. Just having kids is difficult.
Yeah.
Don't get really any time for yourself. Everything about them, you have to be the captain of the ship at all times. But I've been in relationships where it didn't matter if I had somebody there next to me. I was still taking care of the kids by myself. I was still
Yeah.
cooking the dinner. I was still cleaning everything up,
Yeah.
tucking them in, giving them showers, giving them baths, showing up to the school events by myself, sacrificing and working at the same time.
Absolutely. I found that one of the toxic situations for me is where, and again, I appreciate this is also on me because I enabled it and I allowed it, but you realize that, and I used to joke going, oh, I have more children than, so it's basically like I felt the relationship was like another child because I was the parent. I was the mom. And I was allowed to be that, but I also allowed myself to be that. And that's where it's like, as you grow and you mature and hopefully learn your lessons, you realize that you want a mature relationship. You want an equal relationship, not somebody that you feel like you have to take care of.
Yeah, and I feel like that's that codependency of that person being codependent because they need to be taken care of. Let's just be real. They want to marry their mommy or their daddy. And then you with the codependency of I just want to be in a relationship.
Yeah, and I get my sense of worth from taking care of me, even though I'm resentful of it at the same time.
Yeah, and but that's growth though. That's the thing. You know, masking like you don't have any issues and that you're a perfect human being that doesn't have any, that has no baggage and you have no healing that needs to happen. That's a trauma response,
Mm.
you know? And we don't do that. Okay. We
No.
are working through trauma over here. We are not going to act like we're perfect and we don't have issues. We all have issues. But I think that recognizing those issues and choosing to work through those, that is where real growth happens. And that's where you meet yourself. So I want to
Yeah,
ask you a question.
sure.
So we've already established that we're both at points in our life where we don't really need anybody or necessarily anybody at certain points. Um, but what do you look for? Like, what are you looking for in a guy?
Ooh, good. First of all, I want to say the kind of, and I will answer your question, but I want to start with like it took me a while to realize this because I've been in not great relationships for a long, long time, and my friend said to me, "Okay, start with what you don't want. If you don't know what you do want, start with what you don't want because then you get clearer to what you want, right?" Which is what I did. So I went backwards, as it were. But I definitely want somebody who has a certain level of intelligence to them. I'm not saying they've got to be like the smartest person in the world, but I do like somebody that I can have a conversation with about different subject matters. As you know, I can talk about, you know, theories and philosophy and psychology and politics. I want someone that I can talk to, and don't feel like I am the smartest person in the room, which I've had relationships like that. And it's not a great feeling. Somebody who is financially stable, shall we say. Again, they don't have to be a millionaire. I mean, I'm not going to say no, as long as they're a good person. But somebody who is able to be ambitious and independent financially would be nice, right? And then somebody, I mean, as you know, can't have any more children because I had my hysterectomy last year, thank God. I mean, I think I've done my bit for the global population. 3 kids is enough for anybody, in my opinion. But they would either have to not have children, not want their own children, or they don't want any more children because that's it's like it has to be non-negotiable because I can't have any more, you know. And somebody who's kind and got like a sense of humor. And I know these things sound really cliche, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, eye roll, but it's true. You can't go out with somebody who I've dated people whose sense of humor, shall we say, are not aligned with mine, and it's really difficult. So not just a sense of humor, but a similar sense of humor, because laughter is so bonding. As we know, I mean, you and I have literally wet ourselves laughing, giggling at the most stupid things at times. And it's really bonding. It's really, a connection is built on laughter, I think. What
Yeah.
about you?
Um, First of all, I want somebody who is connected to spirit in the way that I'm connected to spirit because
Mm,
that's a big part of my life. And I don't need to be I don't need to be explaining why I'm burning sage, why
yeah.
I'm taking spiritual baths, why I, do tarot. Okay. The person doesn't have to have the same belief system as me. I don't think that anybody should actually have matching belief systems. I think that we should all have our own connection with the divine. But I want somebody that is connected to a higher power, listens to that, and feels like they have a higher calling, because that's just important to me. So that's number one. I want somebody that likes to communicate. I want somebody that's honest. I want somebody that's loyal. I want somebody that's empathetic.
Mm,
I want somebody that sees somebody struggling, like, to get the groceries in their car and runs over there to help them.
yeah.
You know, I want somebody that I'm in the line with them and they see that the person ahead of them is like $2 short for their order and they pull out the $2. I want somebody kind.
Yeah.
Because I want somebody that honestly reflects who I am as a person.
Yeah.
Because that's the stuff I would do.
Yeah.
As far as like the more earthly things, I don't really care about money and finances. I feel like money and finances is something that we can develop on our own. However, I do think that somebody who can be financially responsible is important.
Yeah.
Because I have built like myself my own little mini empire, and I don't want somebody to come in and kind of just bleed it dry, and I have to take care of them. So
exactly.
I can add to my empire. And I want somebody that's great in bed.
Well, yes. I mean, to me, that's kind of a given, right?
It's not a given. Okay?
I know, but it should
not
be. That's the point. It should be a given.
But I want that like is great in bed, but they're like they don't just unleash it on everybody.
Yeah.
Like it's for special times for special people, and I'm
yeah.
right.
It's like the best plates or like the fanciest dress.
Yeah, it's like you only bust this out for special occasions, Like I'm the special occasion. Yeah, that's what I want.
Do you know what I find really interesting is that neither of us have mentioned appearance.
I don't care.
No, do I? But what I'm saying, isn't that funny? Because like I think there is a belief, and from certain factors of society, of like women want a certain look and a certain type. And I would argue that actually the male gaze to other men, I think men work out for, I know the women that like big muscles and stuff, but for the majority, I would say men look like that to get male appreciation. Because women typically don't, on the whole, are as bothered about those things as they think we are.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I have dealt with my own, as you know, insecurities and self-confidence since like birth.
Me too.
Yeah. And so for me to be like, well, he needs to be 6 foot and he needs to be this and he needs to be that is like, girl, relax. Okay. Because I don't even really feel that way about myself. And plus, I am the type of person that when I like fall for somebody, they instantly start to look better. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that is, but like when I really like to I start to feel attracted to somebody, yeah, they start to look better to me. So looks is something that I don't care.
I think that's one of the reasons why when you look back at your exes, not only were you in a vulnerable state, but also because you liked them at that time, they looked more attractive to you in that moment. And so now with hindsight, when you realize the relationship was not great, you can now look back with fresh eyes and you're like, what was I doing? Right?
Yeah, because to be honest with you, looks are only going to get you so far in a connection. But the communication, the kindness, that is priceless. It's so valuable. I mean, let's just be real. When you're 90 years old and your boobs are to the floor or whatever is to the floor for my gentlemen that might be watching.
We both know what you're talking about. It's fine.
It's like, we better be able to conversate. We better be able to make ourselves laugh because they're out the window at this point anyways, So
absolutely. And there's a massive, I think if you're ever kind of like unsure about what kind of person you're interested in, I would start with who in the world, whether it's celebrity, whether it's just in general, do you find an attractive person? Not just physically, but who has those qualities where you're like, and of course we don't know everybody, I know, but who seems to hold those qualities where you're like, they look like a good person or they look like an attractive person? Because I do think it kind of points you in the right directions,
Alexander Skarsgård. That's really like just aesthetics right there.
Almost for dramatic effect.
Who even knows if he's a nice person? But that is like, if I had to have a physical ideal, it's Alexander Skarsgård. I like him tall. I like him blonde. I like him for sure.
I think we've established that she likes him.
I'm like blushing at how much I'm like, that's hot. Like I am affected by that man in ways that I'm just like, like he affects me. So I don't know if somehow he comes across this podcast, but
hi,
I'm a great candidate. You know what I mean? Like I have a resume if you need it. I I also
He has references. I can find a reference.
I also think that Jim Carrey is extremely attractive to me, and I think that people like, and you know that about me. I
Yeah.
love me some Jim Carrey, and I think that people kind of are like, because I don't think he's like the traditional hot dude or whatever, but I find him to be so attractive. So
Yeah. I mean, he's now, of course, this sense of humor, but also he's very spiritual, right? And he's very
yeah,
mindful. So yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's Tom Hiddleston all day, every day. It's just, and it has been for the last 7, 8 years. So, we have our people. It's fine. But
we have
again,
completely different tastes I've found in
yeah.
men. Like, because you like, if we're gonna go like purely based off of the Avengers, okay? So like you're into Loki, I'm like Captain America all day long. He is hot.
I think that says a lot about us as people, to be honest with you.
Listen, I'm like, I'm like a fangirl over here.
That's another thing about Tom Hiddleston is, and I didn't realize this. I want a guy that can dance. Now, he doesn't have to be the hottest dancer going. He doesn't have to be like in the Royal Ballet or nothing. But I want somebody who, when music plays, they can move. Because I have dated guys who will not. They absolutely refuse to even let themselves try. And as somebody, I love to dance. And I don't want to feel like they're looking at me like, what the hell is she doing? I want someone that's going to shake their hips with me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. I don't know why that is so funny to me, but it's like, I mean, music is important to me. I want somebody that is connected to music because I like music. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's your idea of like a good, like a dancer, like that they can dance or that they're willing to dance?
So they're willing to dance because it
Right.
says that how you show up on the dance floor is a good indication of how you are with intimacy, right? So if they've got no rhythm at all and not even willing to try, that does not bode well. Okay, she's gone. I've broken her. So their podcast saying I've broken Jess. Yay!
That's that's why you have to be willing to teach them.
Exactly. But as I say, at least be willing to get on the dance floor. I'm not asking you to be like, out here busting some moves. I just, at least try to go, shaking your hips, show me what you got, right?
Listen, I might not be the authority on this when it comes to bedroom matters because it's been a very, very, very long time. But I am a firm believer in anybody can learn. So if somebody in bed is just not doing it for you, that's where communication should come in, and you should be able to be like, let's not point out the flaws, but I like it when you do this, or how about we try this, or you know what I mean? Like, oh, this would be really sexy if you did that.
Sure. But the other person has to be willing. The other person
Yeah.
has to be showing up and to try and be too open to things. Because I've been with people who I've tried to communicate. I've tried to, be honest and suggest things, and I'm shut down. And that's like you're just not compatible.
And I just think that the thing with me here is that I am the type of person who, if I'm in my house alone, I will dance. I will twirl around. I'm not very good at twerking, but I'll try. I'll give it a go. I literally, I'm just not that great at it. I didn't get that, whatever that talent is. But anyways, but if I'm like out in public, you're not going to get me on that dance floor.
That's because you're an introvert. You're not going to be out there shaking your thing.
Well, no, but at the same time though, that's not an indication of how I am in the bedroom.
All right, girl. Well, I see you.
Like, I'm just saying because there's a lioness in here.
This is the thing about special occasions, right? The lioness only comes out when it's party time.
Yeah. So I feel like if somebody's not willing to dance with you, period, then okay, there might be an issue there. But I don't know if that's necessarily like a strong indicator of how they would be in the bedroom.
Yeah. Well, I'm open to being shown.
But you want who is that? Who was it? Patrick Swayze and
Dirty Dancing. Ooh, girl, he was fine.
The way he used to move his hip.
Oh, he's fine. I haven't watched Dirty Dancing in ages. Maybe that's an indication for me to get it back on the TV, right? Because
yeah, excellent movie. Excellent.
Yeah, John Travolta, good dancer, doesn't do it for me. But then maybe that's because I know he's a Scientologist, so it's a different thing.
Yeah, I know you're really not into that whole Scientology thing. Travolta, he's okay.
Maybe in Greece, if you're good at it, right?
I've never been into that whole bad boy thing. Like I've always been into like the good guy, like the you know, even like low key like the nerdy geeky guy that has like the strange fixation on like I don't know, you know, paints or something and like, you know, like different just whatever like weird hobbies like collecting marbles. You know, and this guy will like go and like take me and drag me around to like different thrift shops where we're just looking for marbles. That's hot.
Are
You
we
know,
talking about sexy marbles? What are we talking about?
you know, like I want to know why you're so passionate about marbles. Show me this life.
Yeah.
Teach me something.
I mean, there's limits, right? I mean, it depends what the hobby is. If it's something a little bit, I mean, there's got to be a cut-off point. We show you that not everything is like, show me this is interesting. There's got to be something where you'd be like, no, that'd be weird.
There's got to be something. What? I didn't hear you.
That you think was a bit weird if they were really into it.
I mean, yeah, if it was like
taxidermy.
See, I don't think that's weird.
This episode you're relearning how different Jess and I are.
I mean, like, okay, like let's. What would I consider weird? If you like to collect baby coffins. You know what I mean? Okay, but that's not necessarily like.
What you were gonna say? That was not it.
But that's not a deal breaker, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a deal breaker. That's just like maybe you need to have your own separate storage area or room where you have all your baby coffins, and I don't ever have to go anywhere near it. You know, but
just
I just, you know what it is? I like people who are passionate about things and have their like own individual like talents and skills, interests. And so for me, it's like, it's interesting to me. And I love seeing people passionate about things. Like, for example, there's this guy on YouTube. He has a channel, Tasting History. I don't know if you've seen it. He basically goes all throughout history and like remakes the food that they would eat.
Cool.
Necessarily find him to be the most attractive person, but I find the passion that he has for that to be attractive.
Okay.
Like, geeks out and nerds out on it and does all this research and dances and like dresses up in the period clothing and like I'm just like that is so attractive. I don't know.
So essentially, if you have a kind, loyal, spiritual guy that's geeking out on something you're passionate about, you're there. You're all over it, right?
Right? Yeah.
Good to know.
I think what it is needing to find out if like they can handle me.
Well, why wouldn't they handle you?
I can be a lot.
So, but if anybody watching this, and to you, my babe, if somebody says I'm a lot, then I would argue that you need someone with bigger hands. You're not a lot. You've been taught or you've been made to feel that you're a lot, but you're not.
Yeah, and that's currently something that I'm working out right now.
I know you are. But I also know that other people will watch this and will resonate with that line, which is just like, nobody should make you feel that you're too much or you're not enough. You are perfect and wonderful just as you are. If somebody can't see that, that's on them, not on you.
Yes. I'm not even going to argue.
Yay, she's not arguing with me. I win.
Because you were absolutely correct. Like, nobody is too much. You just weren't, that person wasn't the right fit for you.
Exactly. Well, considering we didn't really have a plan what we were going to talk about, I think that we've done pretty well. I think we've covered every single base, give or take, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's good. We didn't get too personal, really. I know we kind of touched on a few things, but we didn't kind of dive into anywhere that was massively uncomfortable. So I think we've done well. Yeah,
and I mean, there's not really anybody that I wanted to get up here and like roast. I'm pretty okay with everything that's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, from a legal standpoint, we wouldn't anyway, so. I don't want the trouble. I don't want that shade in my door. You're all right, girl, honestly.
Wow, is it too soon? Yeah, we know.
Yeah, probably.
No. So I know that we like to close out the episode with talking about the next episode, and may I suggest this might not be set in stone, but I think we can talk about the phobias.
Yeah, because anyway, we keep mentioning it. I think it's an interesting conversation to dive into because you got stories for days. So yeah, I'm here for it. Okay, that sounds like a plan. So again, in the comments, if you want to let us know, first of all, let us know what you think of this episode. Do you resonate with anything that we've spoken about? Is it hitting home? Are you triggered? It's okay if you're triggered. It's fine. Let us know what you think, where you're at and stuff. But also for next week's episode, do you have any phobias that maybe are a bit, I mean, the common ones, sure, like, you know, heights and claustrophobia and the ones that we know, but is there is there anyone out there that has a weird phobia? That's what I'm interested in. Is there anybody out there that's like, nobody else has this phobia but me kind of feeling? Because I that stuff fascinates me.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember there, and I'll save it for the next episode. But yeah, I think that that's actually a really good discussion. And yeah, let us know what you thought about this episode. Let us know if you'd like to pay for our therapy, or if you resonate with where we're at. Just being a person trying to make it in the world, right?
Yeah, just trying to get through the crazy dance that is life.
Yeah, and just navigate through messy relationships because they can
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anyway, look, thank you, Jess. Awesome chat as always. And thanks to everybody watching. We really appreciate you. Be sure to give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, all that good stuff. And yeah, we will see you next time for the next one.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye.